fair, and that's a very good, comparison to like exactly what was, popular in that era as well. So, talking about the curation of the store, I mean, there's a lot of pieces that are behind you right now that are probably extremely hard to get. So maybe for the people at home, and maybe giving a little bit of sauce to people that are trying to be in your shoes, how do you source stuff like that? How do you keep the shop consistently filled with the crazy shit that you got on the shelf?
Yeah, well, you know what? Vintage has been through so many phases that I think of what a lot of people would consider what we have to be like lower top shelf, or like upper mids maybe. Stuff that I used to call mids is now like kind of our bread and butter, and stuff that most people would consider top shelf probably is not as much of our bread and butter, mostly because we want affordable clothes. So we range pretty heavy in the 40 to 200 price point, and that goes really well for us. I'm looking at a few $500 tees up here, but we'll leave the $2,000 shirts to the faded, whatnots of the world, because that's not really my cup of tea. Even when we were doing the Marvel tees, because I love Marvel, we weren't really charging those really high Marvel tee prices, because we kind of, in a way have stuck to the same thing, for better or for worse. Financially, we probably stuck to our guns a lot more than most of these stores, because we kept our prices the same generally, and we didn't really succumb to like the hype, So I wouldn't really carry a Kanye $1,000 rap tee, and I never have carried something like that. As far as sourcing and keeping things consistent, having good relationships. So I have great friends and people and family and people, business partners and people who find stuff, and we have a great relationship. We have a great relationship with our customers who bring us stuff still every day, buy, sell, trade, that Buffalo exchange, really straightforward model, trade high, cash out low. And frankly, the internet and social media, it's to thank for, if I feel like I'm lacking anything, I definitely have, thousands of resources to reach out and fill in when we need special collections, curate special things. Phoenix Suns had us up there for a Phoenix Suns versus Lakers game, and I curated a bunch of vintage stuff for the Phoenix Suns. So I was able to reach out to followers and people I follow and source. But I would say most of our stuff comes from my pickers and the relationships I've built with pickers and our customers who bring us stuff on a daily basis. All the best stuff I have gotten in the last 2-3 weeks were all from walk-ins still.
That's sweet.
And not other vintage sellers trying to wax me. Straight walk-ins, people selling stuff from their house, the good stuff.
That's fire. That's super fire. So talking about vintage in all the stores, I mean, I wasn't there, but I'm super familiar that you and Round 2 had a really great relationship in the early days when we were, still on Melrose, still in Virginia in the heyday. You have any good memories we could throw out there of, you and Round 2 early on?
Oh gosh, a lot, because we opened within a week of each other, the original Virginia store and us. And they do say that a lot of really good ideas, or sometimes really good like designs or certain movies, will come in sets of twos. And I think there was a lot of stores actually that opened around that 2012 to 2014 that are like still some of the OG stores that were like OG dealers that kind of all came into this concept, if you will, around the same time. But I would say Round 2 was one that I was very much more aware of. I saw Round 2 and I'm like, wow, that's cool. I saw that they had a gallery and that they were sort of archiving stuff, and I'm like, oh, that's cool. I saw that they were doing stuff a little different than us, like having Supreme and Bape or whatever, and maybe more skate stuff. And I was like, oh, wow, that's cool. That made me think about us having like different elements. As far as Round 2 LA, that's when the floodgates opened. I think that's when everything changed between the Round 2 show, the Round 2 store opening on Melrose, and my show. I'm sorry, but that was a lot of people learned about shit through those channels. Early on, as far as I had never seen too many people that were as passionate about it as Sean and I were. And so to see, I started realizing early on with my store that I was sort of the face of the franchise, and I was getting more followers in my store. So to see like someone like Sean when they moved to LA, for him to sort of be blowing up as his own persona, and I don't mean that in a shallow like LA way, but in a very unique and actually organic way. And I'm like, who's this guy, And so when I came, I'm not really carrying the kind of person who like, I want to meet this person. I just make friends easily. So I feel like I just went to round two, and and he was there, and we were just both into the same stuff: old polo, cool toys, being unique, being enthusiastic, finding stuff, and sort of being at a cutting edge of something that we probably didn't even know was going to be a fashion revolution, I don't think that's an overstatement. So we were sort of the first ones to start setting prices for bigger high-end stuff. Round two had the Polo NASA space jackets, and Mac Miller bought him, and Sean was setting the bar for what that cost. I had $250 bootleg Gucci sweatshirts, and I was selling them to Black Eyed Peas, and I'm like, yeah, those are $500 now, and people were like, wow, $500 for a bootleg, and I'm like, yep. But nobody was using eBay comps, bro. I don't even know if eBay had sold the sold auction, on your phone app yet. I don't even know if all that data was available those first few years. We weren't using the word vintage, we were just cool stores. And I didn't really start thinking of myself as quote unquote vintage until a couple years in, when it just became the buzzword for our type of store, right? And so to go to LA, go to round two, and go to Rose Bowl, and it wasn't my first time going to Rose Bowl, but it was my first time going to Rose Bowl and like competing with somebody like Sean, or maybe a friendly competition where we're just seeing each other there. And that was new, I think, for everybody. But I think Sean and I were people that people looked up to, and that people probably aspired to be like us, because we were our own bosses, and we were good parents, and we were good family men, and we were making a name for ourselves, and we were making a career for ourselves by doing something that we were having fun with, and that we were super authentic, and actually wearing and collecting the stuff ourselves. And that's a big deal, is that Sean and I were collectors. And if you're just in it to be a reseller, it's just, I feel like it takes half the fun out of it, right? The other half is feeding your kids and living off of it, and that's great. But the other half, where you actually enjoy it, I think that's something that brought him and I a lot of good fortune and positive energy, and that was a very authentic version of what everybody else is now. So Sean and I were the authentic OG versions of that.
No, I totally agree, dude. They're very, very well said, because at the end of the day, why both the shows, the round two show and Slobby's World, performed so well was because you guys were like a completely organic people into what this niche was, which is vintage. But like you said, when you guys were making the show, or when you guys were first starting out, it was just what you were interested in. So now that there's like these buzzwords, vintage and all this stuff that are popping up around now, it's like you guys have been interested in what this buzzword has now become. So just people being immersed in what you guys are into and seeing it kind of be fulfilled and set right there. Like you guys kind of have like this path now set. But in those
were the good old days, these were the good old days. And, I think my show was a lot more, it's a reality show, quote unquote, but it was a lot less organic of a show than round two show. But the fact of the matter was, you had a real person in me, a real person in Sean, Luke, Chris, and people on the show. These were real people making a real living off of having fun and selling stuff that they also participated in war. And I think that was I hate to say the good old days or the golden era, but that was the real deal. And it was before people did it. People started skating to be a skater at one point, right? And those were posers. So Sean and I come from the pre-poser era.
No, totally. I definitely agree with that because
of vintage.
yeah, the one thing with your show that, like I said at the very beginning of the interview, was everything you were interested in and everything you talked about wasn't just some, all right, I got this piece. It's like you screamed in the camera, pointed, and let people know like why you specifically cared about the thing and why you were really excited to bring this to this person, because it was a mission and you knew the mission and you knew in your head, and correct me if I'm wrong, that like this is where this piece belongs because you knew the Lord,
Right.
you knew why it should go that place. And if you see someone react a certain way, you know, maybe they don't deserve to have that piece, or maybe you raise the price a little bit because you know like the rightful belonging place to the piece.
Yeah, we're the original gatekeepers.
Yeah, it's the true care of it all, though. It's like
We didn't do a good job of gatekeeping this business, though, my bro. I have a feeling everybody caught on.
I have a feeling as well, especially doing this magazine and trying to show, you know, more of the sauce. Like you guys were the early people that really showed people like how to sell online, because beforehand it was just what it was, like it's retail. But seeing Slobby's World and seeing Round Two show,
Yeah.
one of those
Wow.
literal two only examples you have.
Yeah.
It's not like, you know, some other sneaker stores that we won't mention, but it's like the real authentic version of selling at retail from a behind the scenes thing, whether it was on TV or on YouTube.
Sure.
Very, very in parallel, where like people showing exactly what they wanted. And
Yeah.
but yeah,
It
people,
was fun. That was fun.
it was one of the things where it's just like you got that sweet opportunity to put it on a streaming platform, and Sean was just like, yeah, screw it, we'll do it on our own. But
Yeah. But I was on that show
it.
too, and they were on my show too, and it was a great time. And in real life, man, I was showing up, and they were like holding Versace shirts for me, and like, you know, we were all selling clothes to each other back then. It was real.
That's super fire. And you mentioned Rose Bowl as well. For the people back at home, can you explain just a little bit on like what that is for a reseller? Because the Rose Bowl is a really, really big event. And like you said, there is a little bit of like friendly competition. But for people that aren't too aware, what is the Rose Bowl and what does it mean to a vintage reseller? And how big of a deal is that for you guys to kind of get that opportunity to do that for the day?
Well, I think that Rose Bowl, first of all, it's a flea market, and what you guys call in California a flea market, what we call in Arizona a swap meet. And it's outdoor, and I like that. I come from Arizona where we have outdoor swap meets. So I had always been going to Kobe's swap meet in San Diego. And I had been to Rose Bowl once or twice in my early 20s, but it was a lot to sort of digest, and I didn't really have like a local LA person showing me the ropes. But when I started coming back in around 2013, 14, 15, and started coming out to LA a lot to like what we call buying, what all the dorks call sourcing now. We used to just call that a buying trip, right?
Yeah.
So I'd go on a buying trip, and I'd go to LA, and you'd see Sean at Rose Bowl, you'd see so-and-so at Rose Bowl, you know, you'd see some of these great Japanese sellers and buyers. But if anything, it was a great place for me to find some top shelf stuff and really like exotic and sort of fancier stuff to bring back to Arizona. And then while I'm there, I was always able to sell some stuff to Round Two, like some Supreme or stuff I had come up on the side. So it was just good business. And for anybody who doesn't know, Rose Bowl is just a big flea where one side of it is almost all clothes. Another side is really cool for like toys and collectibles and housewares. So I love it for both things. It can be really high end, you know, but you're also going to find some really rare stuff. And if you're somebody who was like Sean in his heyday, you would go at 4 a.m. and it was almost a competition to see how early we could all get in, you know. People were pretending to be sellers. People were, I'll be honest with you, bro, we hopped the fence, dog. They wouldn't let us put it on Netflix, but there was one episode where I was going to hop the fence to try to get there earlier before Sean, and I brought a carpet and I threw it like military prison style. I threw a carpet over the fence and I got in at like 3:30 in the morning. Then the Rose Bowl freaked out and wouldn't let us use it.
That's so fire. What the hell? I can't believe they didn't let you guys use that. That's brilliant footage. That's basically like making it happen by any means necessary.
The Rose Bowl is the grandfather of all fleas, and it can be a little bit hypey, overpriced, oversaturated, whatever you want to call it. I still would say that it is still the great grandfather of all fleas in the U.S. In the U.S. for sure, it's the biggest. That's for sure.
Hell yeah. So moving